Bye-bye Venice, bye-bye the Lido, bye-bye a delicious meal in the restaurant as I get myself full of food and good water and wine and drinks and set off in my car back to the mainland and on the long, long drive to the south of France. You'll have noticed I didn't say much about Glastonbury in the last episode. Well, I'm afraid that's because I'm almost 80 and I'm afraid the time has gone. I attended the very first Glastonbury and many of the subsequent ones, and in fact I stopped going to Glastonbury fairly recently. When I arrived there in my Rolls Royce, it had been pouring with rain. I obviously had VIP access because I was then a VIP, although I'm not any longer. These days I'm a very important pervert, whereas back then I was a very important person. And I parked the Rolls Royce in the exclusive parking area backstage. I opened the door and stepped out of the Rolls and sank deep in mud. In fact, ankle deep in mud as I got out. I then sat back on the seat of my car. I removed my shoes and put them in a plastic bag. I closed the door and drove back to London in my socked feet, and never went to Glastonbury ever again. I do have some stories about Glastonbury which I'll go into later, but that essentially is why the Glastonbury Music Festival, and in many ways music in general, and Jonathan King are no longer closely related. So people tend to ask me when they see things like me eating a large dish of caviar, how on earth I can afford this if I have no money. And indeed, sadly, I do have no money. I had to fight my last case in 2018 on legal aid, and they don't give you legal aid if you have any money. The problem is, of course, or the problem was, of course, back in 2000 or 2001, when I was accused and had to defend myself against false allegations. The false allegations basically being that I had sex with someone of the same gender, which, of course, by this point was no longer a crime, but had been up until 2 days before my arrest. If either of the two males were under 21 or under 18 years of age. It was under 21 until the 1990s and then got changed to under 18. And 2 days after my arrest, they finally equalised the ages of consent at 16 for both genders. Well, I had deliberately and intentionally broken the law for all those years because I considered it absurd that you could have sex if you were a female at 16 and you could consent to sex if you wanted to have sex with someone else. But if you were a male you could not do so. And I thought that was not only unfair, but absurd. So now does everybody, more basically everybody. There's a few religions, in fact almost all religions, who regard any kind of same gender sex as a sin, let alone a crime. But back then, I'd managed to accumulate over the years of success in the music industry about £1 million. And that was basically to look after me in my old age. And by that point, and around that time, it was the interest rate was at about 10%. So you earn 10% a year on your savings. My capital was about £1 million, and I reckon that would do me at a rate of 100,000 a year, which would last me very nicely, thank you, until I croaked without ever having to touch the capital. Well, sadly, events took a nasty turn thanks to Max Clifford, the public relations man, and Surrey Police. Max Clifford used Surrey Police, and Surrey Police were delighted to use Max Clifford to get a high-profile conviction. And defending myself against the false allegations, which, by the way, I'm still appealing against my wrongful conviction, cost me £1 million.
Okay. Cool.
Your daddy do? 'Cause you know, Sloopy girl, I'm in love with you.
just one of several projects by Le Beaume that I think could be enormously successful summer hits, which I'd like you to look at again this July. I just wanted to comment on the Donald Trump situation, where the Supreme Court has, in my opinion, quite rightly, actually declared that when someone is president, they are immune from prosecution from certain things. Now, I'm sorry, whether you like Trump or not, and I can't stand the man and am directly opposed to almost all his policies, democracy has been created that we, the people, can vote for somebody and then they are becoming president or prime minister in our case, and they are in charge of everything. Now, I think that no longer works. The reason being that now the media has become so strong and people have become so stupid that we tend to vote for people who fit the correct image. They've got nice hair, they've got good teeth, they basically say the right slogans, make America great again, take back control, or whatever stupid slogans they may have, which are always simplistic solutions to complex problems, and we vote for them and therefore give them the power to do whatever they want on our behalf. Now, I have a feeling that this is not a good idea to create leaders who have total control, but that's what democracy is all about. As I've said many times before, I don't think in 2024 democracy works anymore. This has been my office in the south of France for about 60 years. I tend to use a corner table, always the same one, and spend many months every summer here. I used to stay here, I can't any longer afford it. But it remains the place where a lot of the major festivals are based, such as at the moment the Lions. This is a gentleman carrying his documents away from the Carlton Hotel. I like to stay here. It's been refurbished, so for a few years it was closed.
Getting back to how could I afford to live the life I live, an awful lot of it also is clever planning, and the fact that I tend to, as you may know, having watched this series of A Victim Bites Back, I tend to use the same hotels and the same places for years and years and years. As a result, I'm very well known in all of them. Nearly all of them will at the very least upgrade me from the tiny little box room I've booked to a presidential suite for my entire stay. Some will even let me have it at a massive discount. Some even let me stay there for free and take discounts for any meals I may have. Yes, I travelled in a lovely Rolls Royce, which is, I have to say, over 30 years old and is worth probably less than your very tiny Fiat Panda if I were to try and sell it these days. My whole life is planned and organised that I basically can make do from living on my pension, which is what I have to do. I have to live on my pension, and also with the generosity of friends, which I have to say is unbelievable, and of people I've been associated with in the past who are extraordinarily generous and kind, especially those who know I am innocent of my convictions, as proven by the dozens of accusations I've proved false since then. And their generosity has been terrific and enables me to do what I want to do, which is essentially to spend about 6 months of the year in the sunshine, swimming and relaxing, whilst I still work, writing scripts, making films, making TV shows, making new tracks, new records, and so on and so forth. All of that is basically paid for by others.
It has been a summer of sport so far, hasn't it? I've been glued to Wimbledon and the Euros 2024. Very sad to see Belgium go out so soon. Kevin De Bruyne remains my favourite footballer, but I don't think Belgium have got quite the strikers and the organisation that Manchester City seems to have. I've invented this special snack of crudities with caviar, which is delicious, and they go together very well at the Hotel du Cap, Eden Rock, where I used to stay years ago when I had lots of money, but I moved here when the Carlton was being refurbished in Cannes, which has been the last 4 or 5 years actually, and set up my office here, which was very nice, including the fact that they have, I think, the best flower arrangements in the world. And I sit here looking at the beautiful flowers around me as I write on my ordinateur or laptop and create songs, scripts, novels, and everything else that I do in my working daily life.
One thing that might amuse you, well actually it's not amusing at all, but in Rome I tried to start my car and it wouldn't start. And it took me 10 minutes to work out why it was absolutely dead. The starter would not go on. And after 10 minutes I realised I'd accidentally pressed the disabler or whatever it is on my remote control, and as a result it wouldn't start the car because the car was disabled. Stupid! Anyway, you might say that's the sort of thing that everybody does, and it's probably quite right. Probably everybody does, though not everybody has a Rolls Royce, or do most people? I'm not sure. Anyway, that's fine, yes, and it's the kind of thing that happens. But it happened twice more. Once somewhere else and once just now in the south of France. And what's tragic is it took me 10 minutes each time to work out what was wrong. I should have learned from the first time. You press the button to start, to disable, to lock the car and all that, therefore the car wouldn't start. No, because I'm afraid I am early onset dementia. It didn't click in. Now, years ago, that would have taken me seconds to work out, and I would have simply realised it every time it happened. This time, 3 times. Now, I'm hoping the next time it happens, my brain will click in and go, oh, it's the disabler on the remote control. But you never can be sure, can you? And it does tend to prove I'm not quite what I was. So apologies for any repeat performances you've noticed on A Victim Bites Back.
As you look at my favourite restaurant in the south of France, you may have noticed I've not mentioned the minor event that took place in Great Britain, the general election, where the winner by miles was the none of the above voters. In some constituencies, around 50% of people voted. Nearly everybody said, I can't stand any of them. Other interesting points were Labour, really, with its landslide, didn't do at all well. It really hardly picked up anyone new and lost a lot of voters. The main problem for the Conservatives, who didn't do well at all either, was that they lost a lot of their voters and most of their seats to Reform voters moving away and allowing Labour to get the seats instead. But Reform have not done at all well. They've got 3 or 4 seats. Nigel Farage is now an MP, but he's a spent force. All he and his cronies do is appeal to the real right-wing racists in our society, of which there will always be a few. Just like the stupid Brexit thing, he always appealed to those people who were basically anti-foreigners. Brexit should never have happened. All I can do is hope that the new Labour government moves us back into the EU in all but name.
Well, that's it for A Victim Bites Back this episode. See you next time around.